Hello there! It's Friday, which means it's time once again for the best movie podcast ever. The only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name. With me as always, our very own nuclear deterrent who is also a Boy Scout. It's Anthony James. And that's not a quote from this movie. I had to very kind of like ham-handedly get that in.
Yeah, get the reference in.
Yeah.
I'm not truly a Boy Scout
No.
on paper, but I am a Boy Scout. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Conrad. I forgot to say it. Yeah, I am a Boy Scout. I am a Boy Scout in general. Very
How are you with knots?
very wholesome guy. I can do the traditional. I can do the double.
What's the traditional? And what's if not the double?
The traditional knot is the one that SpongeBob taught me. You loop the loop and pull, and your shoes are looking.
Oh, the
cool.
one with the rabbit ears, yeah, for the shoes.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
fine.
That's
That's probably got
to
a
think about rabbit ears. I was thinking literally just the underneath pull, the very loose knot.
Okay.
Then the double underneath pull. That's the double knot. Then
The double is that's your screwdriver for knots, as far as I'm concerned. Like anything, there's not many problems a double knot can't
you
fix.
don't want to double knot your shoes. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I've done it. I'm not gonna say that it worked perfectly, but I've done it, and those shoes carried on working.
Sometimes those hoops do come undone, and they end up with just a double knot, and they are. Let me tell you, they're a teeth job. They're a teeth job.
Yeah, you gotta really get set aside some time to get those things undone. But sometimes you're in the middle. You're 12 years old. It's the middle of a football match, and you're just like, I can't be arsed with this.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. There's one other knot that I can't do anymore. But geez, in the heyday 1996, I could have. That's the yo-yo knot. The knot on the finger loop of a yo-yo, which means you can loosen it and tighten it as you please.
You know what?
I can't remember how to do that anymore.
The audio listeners won't be able to see this, but I got this like leather thong from a Viking market, a leather worker who was a reenactor of Viking stuff.
I'm loving the audio listeners' reaction to this.
Yeah,
he's got a leather thong.
Leather thong. You heard. All right.
He's called that a thong a couple of times to me. I've never heard a bracelet called a thong. I've heard shoes called thongs. I've called the thing that you put on your downstairs a thong. I've never heard a bracelet be called a thong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I am pretty sure. I think Skyrim taught me this, that a piece of leather is called a thong, and this is just a strip of leather with intricate.
Well, that's the original meaning of the word thong, maybe, and then the rest of the world, it's been bastardized. The rest
of the world has moved on.
Yeah,
but I'm nothing if not anachronistic when it comes to my use of language. So I'll still be here waving the flag for calling this and nothing else a thong.
Have you got one of those?
If you're listening at home, have I got what?
Have you got one of those knots on that thong?
No, exactly. That was the point I was trying to make. Was on this thing, I had one of those knots that lets you you don't even have to undo it. It's like magic. You just then you move the thing to loosen and tighten it. But it came undone, and I've had to double this bad boy because it looks like I was a cub. No, was I a Cub Scout? No, I was a. What's the one beneath that? Beavers.
Beavers. I have no idea. I wasn't involved.
All right. Well, I think there's beavers, and then there's maybe something else, and then there's Cub Scouts. I was the one beneath Cub Scout.
I remember my friend was showing me his little coloured scarf for it and all when I lived in Australia
with his toggle.
And I said to my mum, I remember saying to her, "Mum, can I go to the Cubs?" And she was like, "You play 4 different sports and you do Irish dancing. Where are we gonna have the time to send you to the Cubs?" So I've always thought the Cubs and the Scouts were for people who just didn't play sports, but they needed a club.
I mean, we didn't do many sports there. Don't worry, we are going to talk about movies in a minute. Everyone, just settle down. I can hear you at home. Right, just wait. This is the content that you pay for.
Not related material.
Yeah. Batman knows how to tie a knot. I'll tell you that much for nothing. So this is important contextualization of the film we're about to talk about. I mean, I didn't do much sport in there, to be honest. It was mainly just running, because I was 7, so it was mainly just going mental and running up and down a church hall for an hour to tie you out.
Playing children's games, which we've had to change the name of in the last few years. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I think there's probably some Bible stuff in there as well, because I think Boy Scouts is inherently a bit religious. But
I am under that impression as well. Although, I don't There's a few people I know who are actually leaders of Scouts and stuff.
Oh, Arcalas.
Yeah, and
I think that's what
and I would hardly call them a vicar, if you know what I mean. So I don't call them a vicar.
Oh my God. I don't want to get into litigation with the Boy Scouts of Ireland or whoever the
Well, one's in
whoever organises
Scotland.
that.
That's the whole political hot mess as well. There's a certain, that I when I came into this country at 12 years old, I noticed that there was a certain community which mainly, because it's usually like a Protestant church thing. It's not really like the Scouts and the Cubs and stuff. You said it's a religious element there. The religious element isn't really the Catholic Church. So
I wouldn't say
so. Therefore, it does spark the question: do they call it the Cub Scouts of Ireland? I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
They've probably got their own. They've probably got their own thing.
Bear Grylls was the head. Bear Grylls was the head for a while. I know that he was the head scout.
Oh, I don't trust him.
Friend of mine missed the convention where he was speaking to all the little scouts. Bear Grylls.
Oh. Well, I bet they were devastated to not hear Bear Grylls. All right, citation needed for what I'm about to say. It is a joke, but I do also genuinely believe this. For Bear Grylls' made-up stories that he definitely didn't do.
We've all seen him drop out of a helicopter, Conrad. You can't fake that.
No, you can't. But I mean, was he doing that stuff before he was famous? I can drop out of a helicopter. You put me on the BBC, give me a helicopter, I'll jump out of it. I've got no problem with that.
What was he? Was he in the Marines or something? What was he actually in?
No, he wasn't in anything. You're thinking of Chris Ryan and Andy McNabb, who are SAS.
I'm thinking Ross Kemp, am I?
Ross Kemp was in EastEnders. What are you talking about?
Super Army soldiers.
They wouldn't lie to one of their own. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Ross Kemp or EastEnders. Although Ross Kemp would make a good Batman, we're here to talk about I still haven't looked up how this is pronounced, so this is awful of me, but I've been on holiday this week. J. Oliver or Oliver's sequel, or second part, I guess, less than a sequel, of the animated Dark Knight Returns. So, without further ado, without further discussion of the SAS, the Boy Scouts, Ross Kemp, or Catholics, I say, let's talk about some gosh darn movies.
Let's do it.
Movies. We're here to talk about them. But, well, no, this is still talking about movies. I think I did this exact same kind of interjection of my own flow last week as well. I can't remember. But the people have been demanding it. Yeah, exactly. I'm playing my way back to full fitness, with this. I've not done it for a while. The people have been clamouring for it. Anthony's demanded it. And so before we get into talking about Dark Knight Returns Part 2, which we're very excited to do, and I'm sure you're very excited to listen to after that riveting intro, first, we're doing, that's right, it's your favourite and mine, another Back to the Feature. I don't know if we did. I didn't actually watch last week's episode, so I don't know if we did the theme song or not.
We did.
I don't know if
we did. I found it.
Slipped it into the edit. There you go. That's how you know Anthony's a true pro. Okay. So, from those of you who weren't listening last week or have never listened before, Back to the Feature is the exciting game show where I have selected a feature film from around the release of this movie, which in this case was, I believe this movie came out in January 2013, so it's around about that time. Anthony will hear 5 clues and have 5 opportunities to guess the film. Each clue he hears lowers the amount of points he scores, and I welcome you to play along as well. Please keep track at home, because I ain't gonna do it. So, Anthony, without further ado, are you ready for this week's edition of Back to the Feature?
I'm ready.
Lovely. Okay, so it's similar kind of format to last week's, where it's a bit more fact-based rather than IMDb
trivia.
Questionable trivia based, because a lot of those definitely aren't true. Okay. Point one, question 1. Release date of this. So it could be anything, really. February 6th, 2013.
Oh, okay.
What do you think came out on February 6th, 2013?
No idea. This is going to be a throwaway, obviously. We'll go with the Colin Farrell remake, Total Recall.
You're probably not far off with that, actually. That feels about right, but it isn't the Colin Farrell remake of Total Recall.
I don't know why. Why was that film in my head? I don't know.
There was a stretch there where they were like, you know what we should do? We should ruin Paul Verhoeven movies. And they did both Total Recall and RoboCop in the space of like a year. And both of them were fucking
I didn't
garbage.
see the RoboCop one, actually. No,
oh, that's so bad. How to miss the point, the movie. Okay. Question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is how much this movie made. It grossed $333 million.
That's a big one. That's a whale.
It is a big one.
It's an umbrella.
I'm going to say this right now. I don't think you've seen this movie. I don't think anyone remembers this movie. But it did do surprisingly well.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So that makes...
But you may get it from the next one, which is tagline.
Okay. I don't know why my head's going down a sort of Disney route.
Okay.
Because that amount of money, it's going to be a big... Like, I'm going to say, to be honest with you, immediately I was thinking to myself, well, when this came out, I would have been living in Belfast still. Finished my degree in 2013. And that was Belfast before I moved to London. So what did I see that last stretch there? I'm not actually quite sure. I used to go to cinema quite a lot. You say I didn't see it. Let's go with John Carter.
It's not John Carter, but
300 million is a bit much.
A solid guess. I don't know. Yeah, that film seemed to have been like universally panned, but someone must have seen it.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and 300 million. I think is a lot for John Carter.
Yeah, it probably.
That's what they were hoping for.
You say that. I think 300 million is a huge amount for this movie, which I've never heard anyone say a good word about. But let's see.
Okay.
Third question. This is the tagline. Now, I think a lot of people are going to get it on this. We'll see if you do. Okay, so the tagline for this movie was Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia.
Oh, okay. I saw this film in the cinema.
Did you...
Now, I don't know if I'm going to get the name of it right.
Okay, right, so, interjection here. We have to decide if the spirit of your answer is correct, like you are guessing the right film and you get a word wrong, are we going to give it to you? Or do we need the exact wording of the film title right? I think we should give it to you.
Okay.
As long as it's obvious that you're guessing, as long as it's not, you say, like, Terminator 3, and you actually meant Terminator 2.
Okay, well, the thing is, I'm now thinking, obviously, I'm thinking the Die Hard series, right? And I'm pretty sure it's Die Hard 4. But I will say that I am questioning that because of the tagline. Is it actually a spoof of that? But I'm just going to go 300 million. There's no way a spoof would make that much money. So I did see Die Hard 4 in the cinema. I thought it was all right. We'll go with Die Hard 4.
It's not Die Hard 4.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I thought for sure you would have it. I mean, I'll tell you right now, you're in the right series of films.
No way. It came out. There was another one that soon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I can't remember there being a fight.
No one can. No one remembers this movie. It was awful, and yet it apparently made $300 million.
I can't remember this at all. I haven't seen it, and I'll get it this time,
question 4. This might be academic. We might be just kind of cantering our way towards an inevitable loss here. But let's see. So starring, no surprises, Bruce Willis. His son, played by Jai Courtney, and I want to say German. He might be Austrian, but he was in. Talking of Paul Verhoeven, he was in the very good Paul Verhoeven war movie Black Book. Sebastian Koch. He's also in a bunch of other.
Not the Brittany Murphy movie, The Little Black Book.
No, he was in The Lives of Others as well. Did you ever see that movie? German movie. It was very good.
No, although I did think to myself, we're all in the lives of others, Conrad. As long as we meet someone in our life.
Well, he was playing a Stasi agent, so he was in particular in The Lives of Others.
Very much so.
Does that jog any memories of what this movie might be?
Bruce Willis? Yeah, it does actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Willis is in it. No surprises.
So I saw Die Hard 4. I'm just gonna go Die Hard 5. I don't know what's called.
Die
Harder again.
Is that what, I'm going to tell? I'm going to give you a clue.
I think it's the fifth Die Hard film.
It's the fifth Die Hard. Yeah. It's not called Die Hard 5. So are you suggesting Die Harder again?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am.
Okay. It's not Die Harder again. That'd have been a better name, to be honest. Okay. So you're going to get another crack at naming a random Die Hard movie based on the naming convention. You're not a million miles away, I'll tell you that much.
I'm counting that as at least a half a point if I don't get this at all, though.
Spiritually, you've won.
Yeah,
if not technically. Fifth question. It's the plot synopsis. John McClane travels to Russia to help out his seemingly wayward son, Jack, only to discover that Jack is a CIA operative working undercover, causing the father and son to team up against underworld forces.
It's a fifth one. So Die Hard Forever's out the window.
It could be called Die Hard Forever.
If it's called,
that as an answer.
If it's called Die Hard Forever, I will. Honestly, that will really surprise me because usually you go with the fourth, like Shrek taught us that. It is Die Hard Forever, isn't it? I don't know.
I'm saying nothing until we lock in the answer. I can't say anything.
Die Hard. Well, Die Hard with a Vengeance is the third one?
Yeah, that's the third one.
Die Hard 4 is the fourth one.
I think that's just called Die Hard.
Oh, yes.
It might even just... No.
I think it might be just Die Hard 4. And this one's not Die Hard 5.
No, that's not the title.
Can I ask for a clue? Can I ask you a question for clarification?
Okay.
It is a bit of a clue you'll be giving me, but at this point I'm not going to get it. Is it just Die Hard and then a subtitle?
No. Die Hard is in the title, though. As you might expect.
Okay. So it isn't... So it actually is just... Okay, so there's no... It's not Die Hard, blah, blah, blah. It's actually... just one sentence with Die Hard in it.
It's a turn of phrase that they have inserted the phrase Die Hard into.
Maybe it is just Die Harder. And that was the first one that was called that.
You're gonna have to lock in an answer. What are you going
Die
for?
Hardest. Lock it in.
Just Die Hardest. There you go. So it goes in your chronology. It goes Die Hard with a Vengeance. No, Die Hard 2, Die Harder, Die Hard 3 with a Vengeance.
Yep.
Die Hard 4, and then Die Hard 5, Die Hardest.
No, just Die Hardest. No.
Oh, excuse me, just Die Hardest. Yeah. They've dropped the number because it was in the 2010s, so we didn't do numbers. I'm afraid to say you are incorrect. The name of this movie that no one saw, that yet somehow made several $100 million at the box office, is A Good Day to Die Hard.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, that rings a bell now. A Good Day to Die Hard.
I'm putting a zero in.
What a stupid name for a film.
Effectively killed the Die Hard series. I mean,
Bruce Willis's age kind of did that too as well, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they were. One might have said they didn't really need to make Die Hard 4 either, but I mean that was at least okay.
Yeah.
But this one absolutely put the bullet in its head.
Okay, cool.
What a way to go out. Okay.
Half a point.
We've done that bit now. Yeah, Anthony says half a point. You decide at home. I put it down as a 0. The official records will show 0, but this could be one of those situations where those in the know, they know who actually won this race, or this competition.
That's a fix.
Die Hard Returns Part 2.
Yeah.
we're moving on because we've been doing this podcast for 20 minutes and we've done Knots and Scouts and Die Hard, and we haven't talked about Batman yet. You haven't seen this. Yeah, there might be some not work in this. You hadn't seen this going in, I believe.
I had read the graphic novel, although to the listeners' dismay, obviously I was not reading with my glasses on. Don't wear glasses, but you know what I mean. Because I forgot that Superman was in this, because I was saying in the last episode, and I like that you stayed tight-lipped on that.
Yep.
You were sort of channeling me from the After Dark podcast there, weren't you?
Yep. Had to keep stum.
Yeah, so you were saying to me, yeah, you just didn't let me know, because I was like, I don't think Superman might not exist in this universe.
Yeah. Oh, he exists.
Yeah,
he exists. So, in fact, actually, Superman is the first talking point that I had here. So let's get into it. The graphic novel came out as a 4-parter, so it didn't actually come out as a graphic novel. It came out as 4 parts of a comic book in April 86, and Watchmen came out in September 86, which was wild to me when I read that, because I had spent the first 35 years of my life thinking, oh, this was 100% influenced by Watchmen, because Superman here is 100%, like, it's uncanny how similar to Dr. Manhattan he is in the Watchmen, in that he is like a tool of a very conservative Republican government, a very sort of chest thumping, America's going to be great, I'm going to go off and fight all our wars for us kind of government. How did you find this depiction of Superman as like the tool of Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, I did find that quite interesting, and also it is interesting as well that like he still wants to be the Superman who saves people. Yeah. It's just that somehow, like, what does Reagan like just does he just know? Does he just know that he's weak to kryptonite? Is that why he has power over him? Why
he's upset? I think it's just because he's like, I think this is a very cynical comic about the nature of power and the nature of powerful people within power structures. That it's essentially like Superman and all superheroes had a choice to either kind of become subservient to the system or work outside of it. And in this case, Green Arrow, like a Superman, I love the scene where Superman has like shirt open, glasses, flowing lock, Clark Kent, and he's talking about how he like fucked up Green Arrow because he didn't want to be part of the system, and how he's going to come fuck up Bruce. And it's like it really, I think, nails the tightrope of keeping Superman as like this kind of Boy Scout good character, but showing how even someone who is a fundamentally good person can make very poor choices that lead to them becoming an instrument of evil, because Superman basically like believes in the American ideal, which has kind of failed at this point, and it's been replaced by something else.
It's brilliant because he thinks, like, obviously he thinks that by following the rules and being a Boy Scout, he's actually being the better person. But that's not always the way it works out. And that's a really interesting way to take it, because if he's like the perennial rule follower, well, what happens when the rules change and the orders become more evil? I suppose. I don't know what the best word.
Exactly. I mean, it's this brilliant juxtaposition, and we've actually talked about this not in the context of Marvel before, but in the context of like
DC.
DC
he's
rather.
But he's done it, guys.
Sorry, everyone. I'll hand in my podcasting card. We'll make a clip of this. And we'll put like a real clickbaity thumbnail on it that's like idiot podcaster self-owned, and that'll get 100 million views. No, we've talked, it'll be our best video ever. We've talked about how a lot of people in the real world are of the opinion that you should follow the rules and work within those rules to enact change for the better. And I think this comic does
inherently, oxymoronic, to be honest with you.
Well, exactly. And this comic, I think, does a really good job of saying, yes, okay, but what if the rules and power structures that exist are inherently corrupt and they inherently they ostracize certain groups of people, or they criminalize certain groups of people, or they restrict good people from doing things that they need to do because of whatever reason, and I think that's really interestingly illustrated in The Dark Knight Returns and in this adaptation of it.
It is very interesting. I will say it is also interesting, the choice to have the breaking of those rules be sort of in a way like you're critiquing almost like a government down. Rules, you have to follow the rules, and Superman enforces those rules to sometimes detrimental effects, and the way that is broken is to almost just install a new fascist figurehead in Batman. It's like, do they not really understand that if you just left this 100 years and Batman became the ruler, like Reagan or whatever is, that you would just sort of be making the same system again, but this time Batman gets to choose?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And I think what Frank Miller tries to do at the end of this, which we'll get to in a bit more detail, we are going to jump around a bit in the chronology of this, so I apologise if anyone loses track, but I'll try and keep us keep a narrative thread running through. But I think what Frank Miller tried to do with the conclusion of the second part of Batman, of the Dark Knight Returns, is show Batman acquiring ultimate power and then giving it back to the people. Though in traditional kind of sledgehammer, subtle Frank Miller fashion, it's really he deputizes a bunch of former criminals to run the city because he's retiring, which is like, maybe they'll be fine, or maybe they'll turn it into a hellscape and he'll have to unretire again in 10 years.
Yeah, it's like actually in real life, because it's like a lot of the politicians who eventually retire or step away or have their term limits exceeded, they then be like the newer generation, and then like they're like right in the background, still pulling the things, going on talk shows, doing rallies, saying who they like, who they don't. It's like, okay, but Batman, if you were training these fellas to sort of go on in your stead because you're going to retire, don't then just come back from death and just like still be the leader of them.
It's like the WWE when they like bring back like Stone Cold or whatever, and it's like they treat him like a bigger deal than any of the people who are there day in and day out, and it's like, come on, we need to get past this. Like Batman should be putting over the new generation. He shouldn't be turning up and jobbing out, I don't know, Commissioner Yendel or whoever. Yendel.
Also, that she just kind of gave up.
She does give up, so I was going to ask what you thought about her as a character. I think she's a bit undercooked, personally.
Very undercooked, to be honest with you. And I think that it's an interesting take that she comes in with new ideals, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. She's going to sort of make the world better, and then she just gives up because Batman's too strong. I thought, it seems like there's a point being made there somehow, and I don't know if I genuinely agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the shift from Jim Gordon to Commissioner Yendel, where you've got like a pro-Batman police force to an anti-Batman police force that basically stacks the deck against him as he continues to try and do Batman stuff, but i.e. fighting the Joker and all that jazz. The Joker. And it's... Yeah, she just kind of gives up at some point. She's just like... She basically holds that opinion for, I don't know, a couple of weeks while she's settling into the job, and then she's like, actually, this is too much hassle. Let's just let him fly around and shoot criminals with his missile tank or whatever. I don't care. Like, we've got bigger fish.
And then fully, like, actually does sort of concede whenever he's like properly in charge and on a horse,
Yeah, she becomes subservient to him, which is... I think part of the problem with her as a character is she kind of occupies the same, like in terms of like characters as metaphor, she kind of occupies the same space as Superman, where they're both like, we believe in the systems and controls in place and we're going to fight for good within those systems. And it's like Superman's kind of stealing your thunder a little bit on this one.
That's true, but Superman does also then sort of go on to almost just turn into an assassin that is going to have to, it still is a system that exists, but it still is a bit less bureaucratic and more just go and kill them.
That's true, yeah. And also, Superman gets nuked in this movie, which doesn't happen to Commissioner Yendel.
Thank God. I did. Thank God.
Yes, yeah, that's she wouldn't have survived that, I don't think she would have. Okay, so... Let's talk about briefly impact of this comic, because like not in terms of like too in-depth discussion, but I think it's interesting looking at this and then looking at stuff that has been made after it, particularly live-action stuff that very clearly pulls inspiration from it. So I think first thing, number one with a bullet, Joker is kind of the main villain of this part. We had like the whatchamacallit, the mutant gang. Yeah. They're kind of the main antagonists of the first part. Joker's the main antagonist of this one. His appearance on a TV show, like a talk show, is 100% like the inspiration for Joker. Like it's really interesting, isn't it? Ends the same way, really. Like it's sort of a very predictable outcome to that whole situation.
It's really interesting because I enjoyed the film Joker, but at the time I did think it was very strange that the director of the Hangover movies was getting credit as being this amazing director now, and as the weeks go on, as the years go on, everything from that film is lifted. Yeah, there's not one thing original about the film Joker.
No,
I still enjoy it though. But
yeah, I mean, it's not. I think that was you had the problem with Joker the movie, and I appreciate that we're kind of contributing to this by even talking about it because it just became this like fog of people like just firing shit opinions into the internet and like just clogging any kind of legitimate discourse. But I think the problem with that movie is that it was treated with too much hyperbole by everyone who was talking about it. So there were a load of people who were like, maybe hadn't seen the stuff that it was inspired by, and they were like, this is the most artistic comic book movie ever made, and it's like really, really impactful. And then like, I guess it kind of to a certain extent is that, but it's not a very high bar for comic book movies, to be honest. And then there was a lot of people who, to be fair, like I'm probably more like me than I care to admit, who are like, well, actually, you need to go see King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, you fucking idiot. And the reality lies somewhere in the middle, where it's like, it's an okay movie, I enjoyed it just fine, but as you say, it's not an original. It doesn't have an original bone in its body.
But can you imagine? Yes. Yeah, but I was thinking to myself, can you imagine what an actual artistic director would do with it? Like Todd Howard kind of pulled the wool over the world's eyes into believing that he was this original director who brought a new take to a superhero film, and he did to a certain extent. But having seen all the references that he was so clearly pulling from, it does seem like a project in art college rather than like, you know, where you have to wear your references so clearly on your sleeve rather than an original idea. And the thing is, and fair enough, it exists. I'm looking forward to whatever they do with it. I don't hate it, and I don't hate Todd Howard. I just thought it was like just so much I don't know, like hot air around it, you know. And I think that it's gonna, like, why eventually they're gonna have to give a superhero film to a proper artist, you know. Like, I would.
Well, I mean, they've tried it. I mean, they tried it with Chloe Zhao and there have been some others as well, like with Eternals.
I know what you mean. But I, like, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson. Look what he. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So look what he
give PTA.
Look what he
the next Superman.
Look what
movie.
he did with a Adam Sandler comedy. What could he do with a superhero film?
Imagine the things that Paul Thomas Anderson could do. Cast Daniel Day-Lewis as the Green Lantern, and let's fucking go. That could work. It could work.
Daniel Day-Lewis as like Wolverine.
Oh, that'd be so good. Like, he's a bit too tall to play Wolverine, so he'd have to walk around on his like knees.
Tell that to Hugh Jackman.
I've been very outspoken about my hatred of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think he was amazing in the role, but that he should never have been cast as Wolverine, because basically it just made him like the star of those movies. Yeah, it's not really Wolverine.
You know what's interesting about that, Connor? Before we move on, I just want to throw this in, right? Is that most people, I would probably include myself in this, their first time they ever saw Wolverine was through Hugh Jackman. So the idea that you could say that you don't like Hugh Jackman as the choice for Wolverine is going to blow like 80% of people's minds.
Yeah, and you know, just to repeat, he was great in the role. Like, I think Hugh Jackman did a fantastic job with it. I just have issue with, like, Wolverine is supposed to be like the opposite of Scott Summers. He's supposed to be like this 5'6", hairy as fuck Canadian lumberjack dude. Like, and Scott Summers is supposed to look like Hugh Jackman. He's supposed to be like this muscular pretty boy who is perfect, and that's why the love triangle works with Jean Grey. Whereas in reality, they like cast Hugh Jackman as that, and they was like, "Fuck, how do we put Cyclops in this?" Which, full disclosure, I have a Cyclops tattoo on my arm. I am a bit of a Cyclops fan. But they were like, let's make him listen to NSYNC and just make fun of him the whole time. Which that one stang. That one took some coming back from. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, so Conan O'Brien cameos in this as the talk show host. Lovely little random bit of casting, but you know, I think I vaguely remember Conan O'Brien's a bit of a nerd.
Conan O'Brien's a big nerd, but that's unbelievable that I didn't even notice that he did that, because I was going to make a really like sort of crazy analogy to the Jay Leno Conan O'Brien situation when we were talking earlier on about the idea of like politicians retiring but staying in having influence,
in the shadow.
Because basically what happened with Conan O'Brien was that he was given the Tonight Show, and then Jay Leno would like, I don't know, there's YouTube videos about it which are so good. Like, literally Conan O'Brien's career was really like hindered by Jay Leno, and then he eventually had to go over to basic cable to do his show, the Conan O'Brien show on TBS or whatever he did it on. But he was completely screwed out of the Tonight Show from Jay Leno, and then Jay Leno like took it back 9 months later. It's such a crazy story, and you should really.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
it'll make you hate Jay Leno if you don't already.
I've literally never seen anything that Jay Leno has ever done, but I've seen enough Conan to know Conan, right?
Conan.
Conan is the barbarian. Conan is the talk show host. But I've seen enough Conan to know, like, he seems cool, and it seems better than Jay Leno, at least.
Definitely.
Okay, Anthony, question for you. Talking about stuff that was influenced by this. To what extent is it ridiculous that Zack Snyder tried to start his Batman stuff with this? Like, the first thing Zack Snyder did, which we're going to talk about Batman versus Superman next week to kind of cap off our Batman stuff, to come in fresh. Like, Dark Knight Rises has come out, and then there's been, I'm trying to remember when Batman versus Superman came out. I think it was 2014, 2015. So it's probably like a 4 or 5 year gap between Dark Knight Rises, and they were like, right, we're rebooting Batman because Kevin Feige's doing all this amazing stuff with Marvel. We need to do something else. So we're going to like fast track Batman and Superman into these kind of IP clash movies.
Yeah.
But like the idea that like that Zack Snyder was like, let's just do this. We don't need to establish who Batman is or who my Batman is. We're just going to start with a movie where Batman and Superman beat the fuck out of each other. It's nuts.
I remember this film, and I remember thinking about, like, obviously we're going to talk about it more in detail next week, but I thought to myself, this. I remember being annoyed even when they first were coming up with the film, because I was like, why has Batman not got his own film to make this version of the character make sense? Yeah, and then do this. I just really, that's why DC's failed with this this universe, DC universe they're doing, because they want to get, they see what Marvel's doing, and they want Marvel's 12th film, but they want to do it second.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that is what they have. No plan. It's just like this movie or this comic and this idea of Batman has a full 90-minute movie. Oh, to be honest, actually, it has about half of this movie as well. Yeah. Really, you have you have 2 to 2.5 hours of Batman establishing, you know, his weaknesses, the fact he's old, his relationships to Selina Kyle and to the new Robin and to Alfred and to Gordon and to Commissioner Yandel, all of this stuff that sets up the conflict and really gets you on side with this old broken down Batman, so that when he goes up against Superman, it's like, you're kind of fucked here, Batman, like you're gonna die in this fight, and you're on his side. Whereas like to just go straight into that cold, I know there's a bit of kind of set up in Batman versus Superman, but it's nowhere near the level of this, is insane to me that they thought that was a realistic thing to try and do first. I think it's so weird. I just really think that I don't know what analogy to draw of this, but I'll just basically say I think the problem that DC has is that they are trying to live too much on what Christopher Nolan did and what, like, basically, for example, Christopher Reeve did, right? So I think, like, the old Superman films and who the Superman character is, plus the Batman fever pitch from the mid-2000s, I think that they think that no matter what they do, if they slap Batman or Superman on a poster, they will get 500 million, 600 million, whatever. And you know what? To a certain extent, they might be right. But the problem is, it's going to have diminishing returns. And it's not going to at all help for long-term success of the company. It's going to just dilute the water, and eventually the quality is going to be so bad that what are you left with? It's like, and even Emmett, who hasn't been on the channel in a while, will be back on soon, has talked to me a lot about he just doesn't really watch Batman stuff anymore. He didn't even watch the Robert Pattinson Batman thing, and he's the biggest comic book nerd I've ever met. And he doesn't watch it because even in the actual comics these days, in DC Comics, over 50% of the comics they're running right now are Batman or Batman adjacent. Batman, Nightwing, you've got Harley Quinn stuff, you've got Joker stuff. It's all Batman related, and it's just too much, you know? Yeah. And you can, I mean, the crazy thing about it is you can very evidently damage the Batman brand as it pertains to films. Like Joel Schumacher did it with Forever and Robin. They needed to take 8 years off to give people breathing room and time to reset their brains for the Nolan Batman to work. And the Batman vs Superman and Justice League movies kind of did the same thing again. Like I love Batman as a character. I'm always interested in him, and I by the time Justice League came out, I was like, I think I'm done with Batman movies for a little while. Like, I just, admittedly, they didn't really make any after for me not to be interested in, but had they, I would have just been like, no, I'm not going to go see this, because even if it's Batman, it doesn't feel faithful to the character, really. Okay, so but I will say the Batman versus Superman fight in this I thought was great. I do question why he doesn't just wear the mecha Batman suit all the time, because in this, particularly in this movie, he spends a lot of time getting shot and stabbed, and it's sort of like, do you know? I understand it maybe limits his agility. So when he was younger and more of a ninja, he was prepared to trade the armor for speed. But in your 60s, it's like, just wear the armor, Batman. Come on.
Yeah, like they didn't even really put much into saying that it's just been made or something. I think it's just implied that he'd already had it.
Yeah, he had it ready to roll for when Superman stepped out of line. I think is basically like he had like a big glass case with a like push button in case Superman wants to start some shit written on it.
I do like it's. I know we have to suspend our disbelief, but to be honest with you, I love the idea that his big Superman busting suit is an bit of armor. But Superman has heat vision. Like he could literally just boil you alive for one. The second thing is he could also just burn your mouth. Like why could he just burn your mouth?
I mean, Superman is as powerful or as weak as any story needs him to be, unfortunately. Yeah. And in this, Batman in armor is able to go toe to toe with him, which I'm happy to accept because it means we get a cool fight scene. But I do absolutely agree with you. He could punch a hole in the planet if he wanted to. A suit of armor is probably not going to be an issue for that.
Exactly.
Okay, very quickly, before we talk about Batman, the character, as he exists in this, I just wanted to get a couple of things out of the way because we did talk last week very briefly about how Frank Miller is kind of weird and a bit of a misogynist. How did you feel about the Nazi lady in this?
What was that?
Swastikas over the boobs?
What was that? Because
that was an interesting choice by Frank, I thought.
I know that she
feels
was
a bit fetishistic to me, but to be like, what if we got like this sexy Aryan lady with a flat top and she's topless, but check this, guys, she has swastikas over her nipples. Like it's.
I mean, I understand she's a bad guy, but it's fetishistic. If you want to have a bad guy who's a Nazi, then just have them be a Nazi. That's enough. I think it is weird. It is weird.
It's very like it's very schlocky because I mean, and I kind of think if I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, I'd say he's trying to do like a werewolf women of the SS style thing where it's like clearly tongue in cheek, a parody.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't really feel like that, and also just the fact that like there's no other women in this. This isn't a grindhouse depiction of Batman. You know, there aren't. It's not like I don't know, like Sin City or something like that, where there's like strippers walking around with samurai swords and like women with guns for legs and shit like that. Where it'd be like, okay, in the context of that existing, this woman with like swastikas over her nipples is like it kind of makes sense in this world. Like she really stands out as like Frank Miller just being like, I'm gonna put a hot Nazi lady in this comic and. There's nothing you can do to stop me.
And you'll have to deal with it. I do, yes. Like, what? There's only a couple of female characters.
Well, there's
Yendel,
out of the frying pan.
Selena Kyle,
well, so Yendel actually... Yendel is a fairly decent depiction of a female character. I might argue that her being a woman is kind of irrelevant because they don't really characterize her in any meaningful way beyond...
to be honest with you, in one regard, makes her a good female character.
That's true. Yeah, there is something to be said for that. But I think when Yendel is there, and then you have Nazi lady, and then you have elderly Selena Kyle working as a madam, and like kind of gagged and tight and dressed up as Wonder Woman. It's like,
what was that about?
That's odd. That's an odd thing to do, and I kind of get where he's coming from because he wants to show that she's old and so she's gained a bit of weight and she's no longer this like super sexy femme fatale that she was. But I feel like his view of aging and his depiction of people aging doesn't apply to Batman. Like Batman is still built like a fucking bodybuilder in his 30s. Like he's a bit more robust, a bit squarer, but he's not like that. He should look, if they really wanted to be faithful, I feel like he should be like Mr. Incredible in The Incredibles. Like he's fat now, like he has a beer belly.
That would be good.
That would have been great, but we didn't get that. So instead we get Selena Kyle as a madam, which is kind of, I don't know, that felt a bit weird. And again,
I mean, I don't really know why she would have to do that. Like what?
No,
I don't really get much from the Catwoman character that makes me think that she. Why does Catwoman have to be a madam? Why does she have to be involved?
It's an odd kind of shorthand for her as still working in some kind of vice-like industry. Like she's not a thief anymore, but she got into prostitution, and it's, I don't know, it doesn't really feel faithful to Catwoman as a character, because her whole thing was kind of protecting these women like on the streets that she grew up around, and being a madam, I don't know, to some extent feels like
it is a take on that, but I also think that Frank Miller's putting a little bit too much of maybe what the audience's view of the character is rather than what the character is itself.
Yeah, I think that's true. But yeah, so Frank Miller, I find him a bit weird as an author, to be honest, but that's all I wanted to say on that. Let's we'll wrap up then with the man himself, the big man himself, very big, in fact,
very
in this
big
one.
beefy boy.
Batman. So we get some interesting Batman stuff in this one. Some pretty violent Batman stuff in this one, I'm going to say. And I'm saying that from the context of someone who watched him fire mortars and rubber bullets at a bunch of mutants in the previous part of this movie. So just off the top of my head, he puts out one of Joker's eyes with a batarang.
Oh god, Joker
Joker
shrugged that off. He shrugged that off.
Yeah, Joker was fine with that. He was like, finally, the real Batman's here. It's like, do you want to go to a doctor or something?
Well, a little side note on Joker. Like, that was a bit weird. How for some reason they allowed him to go on a chat show. Okay, we'll just let that hang in the air as weird. Anyway, back to Batman.
He was a cured man.
Yeah, like, what a weird way to get in.
Doesn't matter how many times he's tried to blow up Gotham. He's fine.
Why is he impervious to the bloody poison gas? What? Because he has red lipstick.
Yeah, I don't know. He's developed an immunity to it or something, which has happened to me.
Reverse engineered from my own DNA. Like, what's going on?
It's like Wesley in Princess Brides. Like, he spent 10 years taking a little bit of this poison every day in his food, and now he's immune to it. Or maybe he's just got like a built-in respirator in his mouth or something, and nose, I guess.
I mean, you can get all kinds of things in prison, so
that's true. Yeah. He had plenty of time. Let's be honest. So that fight is pretty cool, I think. And when we talk about like Batman, establishing that Batman doesn't kill people, I think it's in service
snapping
of
a gun
like this. It's snapping a gun.
He snapped a gun in half.
When did he do that? I don't remember that.
He said something about like these weapons are not cultured or something, and snapped them and said,
"Oh, that's right.
You want to throw
batarangs
in people's eyes."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's after this. So I mean, maybe the horse is out of the stable at that point. Like he's already put out Joker's eyes with a batarang, and then Robin kills someone in this, admittedly accidentally, but she kicks Abner, not Toyman, but Abner, who makes the little toy gas robot friends, kicks him off the roller coaster, and he gets the old Temple of Doom situation, like his cape gets stuck in the gears of the roller coaster, and he's like, oh, and then gets sucked in and killed, which I'm gonna say that's Robin's fault. And then we get the pretty amazing fight sequence where Batman and Joker go at it in the Tunnel of Love, which is just great. Batman gets shot, then gets the absolute shit stabbed out of him, but kind of stays on his feet long enough to, and I don't fully understand this bit, he sort of breaks Joker's neck, but then Joker's okay enough to sort of talk to Batman and give some final words before killing himself by properly breaking his own neck.
Yeah, so I read that as like Joker realizing or being happy enough to die knowing that Batman would be blamed for his murder.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true. I mean, it's more the sort of physics of being able to break your own neck like that.
I was already half there. It was half there.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't think you can half break your neck. Like, it's either broken or it's not.
It's a whole vertebrae thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's true, yeah. I mean, also, we don't know what he did in prison. Maybe he's got a weird spine or something that's got like you know how some people have like teeth that let out like poison in movies. Maybe he's got like a vertebrae that when he like twists it a certain way, it explodes.
Yeah. He's got the exploding vertebrae. Isn't there a film with the exploding vertebrae? Oh, it's Westworld. Westworld. Yeah.
Westworld has the exploding vertebrae, although that barely features.
Well, we did see some hosts in this. There are little robot people.
We see the little robot people. Yeah, I mean they are.
Maybe he is Robert Ford of Westworld.
Yeah, Frank Miller not concerned with whether those robot children have sentience or not. They are just immediately killed.
I'm glad they were robots. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. So okay, Batman then. What's your take coming out of this? The way that Batman ends compared to where he starts, his arc. How does it leave you feeling about him as a character? I
don't know. It's a whole thing. Like he was a bit of a fascist for me. I think
yes.
A bashist. I don't know how you would say it, but yeah. I think that. I don't know. Does he have a pure heart at the end? Does he want to fight crime, or does he want to still be the member of this underground gang? It kind of feels like to me he's the leader of an underground gang at the end of this film.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he literally is.
He literally is, yeah. So I don't
he's not dead, as the movie suggests.
Yeah.
He survived the fight with Superman, and he gets all the sons of Batman who have been deputized in this like big kind of final clash to restore order to Gotham, and then he takes them all underground as like, we've got a new Batcave. I'm going to teach you how to be Batman, and you're going to go out and keep the city safe because you're the only ones that can do it. And that's effectively the end of the movie.
It is in very stark contrast to, say, for example, the end of The Dark Knight or something where he's like, he sacrifices something for the people. Whereas what's he really sacrificing here? He's sort of... I suppose he doesn't really have any money anymore, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, he does. I mean, he's able to retire in relative comfort, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, the only thing it's more... I think this story is more about a clash of ideas, like him and Superman, him and Commissioner Yendel. And it's... I do like it, and I think Batman is a very cool character in this. It's a very well-realised depiction of Superman, but I do totally agree with you that there are some elements of it that's a bit like... maybe this read differently in the 80s, but when you look at it now, it's like, okay, and I some people are going to roll their eyes at what I'm about to say, but you have to interrogate these kind of things based on the implicit biases of the author. All right, just because someone didn't necessarily intend for the bias to be there doesn't mean the bias isn't there. Frank Miller is a pretty wealthy white guy, and Batman is a pretty wealthy or very wealthy white guy, and ultimately this story, or all Batman stories, if you're not careful with it, can become the tale of a very wealthy white man beating up a bunch of poor people.
Yeah.
And
this film concluded that was the only way that they could keep everything in line.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not saying this because I think that criticism should be applied to all Batman movies. I think the early ones are very good about kind of elevating it to the realm of kind of like parody and stylized storytelling, where the class element kind of gets eliminated from it. And the Nolan stuff, I think, does a really good job of kind of placing Batman within that conflict in a way that doesn't make him seem bad. In this, Batman goes from a guy who's like, oh, I've got to unretire because I got to fucking deal with Two-Face and these mutants, which I'm kind of like, okay, I can kind of get that. And then by the end, he's like beating the shit out of Superman and like installing a former criminal gang as like
they were all criminals.
Of the city. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if this feels good, to be honest.
Well, the ending of it as well, there is a sequel to it, remember I told you. But the thing is, the sequel came out I think it was like 2001, I looked it up actually. So it came out so many years after. But it does really feel like, it doesn't feel like Batman's story is finished here. Because you can't end with your good guy just being the leader of an underground gang who has just concluded that I'm the only person and we're the only people who can bring order to the world. Yeah, that's quite a strange thing. Like little groups of people who decide that they're the only way that the world can be right, and their rule of law is the only way we can fix everything.
Yeah. It's libertarianism.
Yeah.
Like
as time goes on, that group as it grows is not going to be good news for the world.
No, and more to the point, like, the end of the Superman-Batman conflict in this is resolved because Batman wins the fight, but he dies or appears to die, and Superman knows he hasn't actually died but is prepared to perpetuate the lie. He dies, and that satisfies the powers that be, the governmental power structures who are like, you need to go and fix this this Batman shit because it's looking bad for us in the papers. Now that's fine, but the then proposed solution to this is like Batman training a bunch of new kids on the block to be new Batmen, and it's like, okay, but is Ronald Reagan going to be like, now listen, Soups, we're going to let them be? Like, no, he's going to send Superman to fucking kill all the new Batmen, and it's going to be much easier because they're all like 21-year-old former criminals. They're not billionaires.
Yeah, well, Superman will be able to kill them very easily.
Yeah.
And that's something maybe is overlooked because Superman could hear your heart beating while you're underground. Do you not think he's going to find your little lair?
Yeah, he knows the lair's there. He's just, like, when he's walking away from Robin, who's like laying flowers at the grave, he's just like, I'm going to be fucking back in 5 years' time. I know I am. We're going to get a new president in. Fucking Bill Clinton's going to take the White House, and it's going to be all right for 10 years. And then George W.'s coming in. Yeah. It's going to be like, we need to make an example of these Bat characters.
Oh, God.
It's just, it's a very strange ending. And I think, is there anything else that you would like to discuss about this? Or I think we've covered most everything, but is there any other thoughts you wanted to get in before we get to a roundup?
No, just to add that we also missed Robin as a female character, but apart from that, let's move on.
That's true. Robin is a female character, but again, not much characterization of Robin apart from kind of briefly overheard conversations between her parents, who are kind of like, again, Frank Miller's politics kind of seep in where they're like, we went to that protest, like, you know, we did our bit, and it's like, okay, so this is how Frank Miller feels about left-wing people. It's just like, these left-wing people went to a protest, achieved nothing, and now that all they do is get high and ignore their daughter. Like, that's the life, which, to be fair, is very much how I'd like my life to go.
Yeah.
So Frank's not wrong on that one.
Yeah.
I just don't appreciate him calling me out so explicitly. Okay, rating then. We have to do this. It's required by law that we give this movie a rating. Where are you landing on this in a 5-star scale?
I said 3-star for the last one.
Yes, I think you did.
I think I'm going to go 3-star again. I think this this is no better, no worse. Good.
If I'm honest, I gave this 4-star when I watched it, and now I think I've talked myself out of a 4-star and into a 3-star with my criticism of that ending, because it just doesn't sit that well with me. I still like it. I still think Batman's a really cool character in this. I just think that when you start to really think about it, some of the things are a little bit troubling.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Conrad last week being a bit of a hipster. This is like, the animated film. It's got to be a 4-star. It's an animated film, that is like a bit sort of on the outskirts of popular fandom.
Absolutely.
So it was a 4-star, but now he's been there for a couple of weeks now, and the word's on the street that the Best Movie Podcast ever has covered this. So now he's like, actually, you know what? 3-star.
All the fucking Johnny Come Latelys turning up and being like, have you seen The Dark Knight Returns? I'm like, I was watching The Dark Knight Returns a week ago.
I was born in The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, yeah, I'm onto new shit now. To catch up. No, we're not doing it. This podcast is a Bane voice free zone. That's my promise to you, the listener. There will never be a Bane voice. I think we've already broken that rule, to be honest.
No. We haven't broken the rule because it's not a true Bane voice until you get a big glass out and
get the pint glass and talk into it like that. But we'll never do that. That's my promise to you, and you can take that to the bank. Okay, that's going to do it for us then this week on the Best Movie Podcast Ever, which leaves us with one simple question to answer, as we always do, and that is, Anthony, what's your favourite movie of this week?
My favourite movie this week has got to be 100% got to be, while I think of it, I'm watching Stranger Things season 4 at the minute, and
go on, yeah.
It can't be Stranger Things season 4, but it's reminding me an awful lot of 80s films in general. So I'm just going to say California Man.
Pauly
Shore.
Pauly Shore. I was thinking of what's his name? The guy from The Mummy.
Brendan Fraser. Well, Brendan Fraser is in it. Yeah, Brendan Fraser.
Oh, he is in that. Okay, yeah.
I think he's like the frozen guy from the. He's like the frozen caveman, and then Pauly Shore is like the teenager who discovers him.
Okay. Well, it's a good shout. I'm glad that you vamped for as long as you did there, because it gave me time to check my letterbox to remind myself what I've actually watched this week. I have not mentioned this before. I don't know if you've heard of it, Anthony, but I finally got around to watching the Indian movie RRR, or Rise Raw Revolt, I think is what it stands for. It's a very, very good action movie. A lot of smoke on the street about this movie on the internet.
Oh, really?
And it's well worth checking out. It's about overthrowing British colonialism through the power of friendship, which I think we can all get behind.
Love, Murph, love. All right, okay.
Yeah. Come on, Tars!
See, Conrad loves a little bit of friendship, healing barriers, and love healing barriers.
Oh, I absolutely
when it's
do.
not Christopher Nolan.
when
it's
not
the
Christopher
alternative
Nolan.
Indian cinema. You bet believe.
No, when it's not Christopher Nolan jacking himself off over how original the idea is. It's like, yeah, we get it. Friendship was the healing wounds in like fucking Bill and Ted, all right? Like, it's not something he came up with.
I have to say though, apparently I haven't seen it yet, but apparently light years going down the Chris Nolan route in terms of the old
Is it?
The old time divergence. That's all we'll say.
Okay, well you'll love it and I'll hate it then.
I'm gonna love it.
I'll probably enjoy it. It looked all right.
Yeah.
No Tim Allen. That's an instant boost for me as far as I'm concerned.
It's gone woke.
Yeah, it has. They fucking ruined it. The SJWs have got a hold of Buzz Lightyear and they've ruined him. Do you think
they've
that
massacred our boy?
Do you think that they'll go too far in the other direction and recast Woody as like a really racist actor to play like a realistic cowboy now?
I'm hoping it's Chet.
Oh yeah, get Chet Hanks. Chet Hanks as a young
just a
Woody.
diversity hire, you know.
Yeah, to address the balance.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Get these SJWs out of my Disney. Okay, that's going to do it for us.
I'm going to put a big thing on the screen saying satirical.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I mean, I feel like we hopefully shouldn't need to advertise when we're joking, but, just in case, we'll or just assume everything we say is a joke unless you agree with it, in which case it was completely serious. I've lost my place in the outro now. That's going to do it for us this week. I haven't written it down, that's the problem. On the Best Movie Podcast Ever. Thank you to Jared Iscariot and Nancy Wyatt for the use of our theme song. You can find links to their stuff down in the description below. And thank you to you for putting up with this episode and listening. We really do appreciate it. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think of Frank Miller's weird Nazi women fetish, or what you thought of the movie in general. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're the Best Movie Podcast Ever on podcasting apps, and we are the Culture Cave on YouTube. And we will see you for, what did I say it was? Batman vs Superman. Same time, same place, next week.
And cut.